And now, live from Level 5 Productions on the island of Milleronia, it's The Larry Miller Show. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America, and everyone who loves earthquakes. Hi, folks, and welcome back to the Larry Miller Show. I'm Larry Miller, but in a way, aren't we all? And boy, oh boy, is it a gorgeous day here on Milleronia. It's been a while, and it's wonderful to be back. Oh, and gorgeous. You know what? I mentioned earthquakes before. Well, I'll tell you something about more on Milleronia that. I'll tell you something more about Milleronia that way. But boy, oh boy, it's gorgeous. And you know what? Of course, the music helps make it a beautiful day to me. I love it very much, and so does Colonel Jeff. And obviously, he's here now. It wouldn't be a show without him. And, well, he loves Milleronia too. And not just because he's under threat of a volcano. He loves it because he loves it. Right? Right. And at any rate, that of course was the Abner Biberman Orchestra and the Joan Fontaine Dancers featuring boy tenor David Calhoun asking the musical question, if your parents are rich dairy farmers and they die and leave it all to you, does that make you a dairy heir? Yes, it does, David. Good one, very witty, it does. And guess what? That makes your kids dairy heirs too. Like it or not. Well, you better give the dough to them. Well, you got to give it to someone. I've never understood people who don't give things to their kids. What else are you going to do with it? And give it to the kids, or give it to them when they hit 50 or something like that. So they have to make something for themselves. But good question, David. If your parents are rich dairy farmers and they die and leave it all to you, does that make you a dairy heir? Yes, it does. And there's a reason I mentioned Abner Biberman and Joan Fontaine, but you'll have to wait till just a little bit later. And by PayPal. That's a great group. I love these guys. And by the way, they're listed on our website. You go to LarryMillerPodcast.com. Who's on the Mountain? Tom Mix. That was pretty good. You can thank the Colonel for that. He finds all these neat things. I don't even know. I don't care whether that's baseball or highlight, by the way. I think it's baseball probably. And but very well done there. So we have a banner there that says PayPal. So click that banner. And that'll take you where you want to go. Boy, they make you feel like you're saving the world, too. If you enjoy my show, and why wouldn't you, and you'd like to send us a few bucks to help out, and why wouldn't you, you can do it all through PayPal. And instead of saying donate or pay what you like, or join the Platinum Committee, I always like to say buy us some drinks, because there are different levels to that. There's level 1 through 5, all the way up to, we're driving to Florida! Boy, that audience was ready. And they should be. You should be, and I should be. But do that, folks. Look for the PayPal banner on our website. And remember, well, every little bit helps us keep the old leg lamp lit. And thank you to everyone who's contributed already. And thank you to everyone who's about to, because they're so charmed by my plugging it. And that's, remember, LarryMillerPodcast.com. Who's on the mountain? Tom Mix. That's now when that frisky trumpet player added that in on their recording session, it just suddenly felt to me like everyone else in the band just slowly turned and looked at him, including the conductor, and it might have been the last time he played something like that. Of course, it's hard with a fat lip to play something frisky on a cornet. Oh, folks, it's good to be back with you. And that brings me to my favorite part of the show, the joke of the week. Boy, I love this. Suddenly realize it's not the joke of the week. It's not people who aren't strong. It's not the joke of the WEAK. It's the joke of the 7-day period since the last one. The joke of the week. And there is nothing more wonderful than passing on a good hunk of humor to your loved ones and your family and your friends. If you like this one, as always, please pass it on to them. So, it's the very beginning of Earth. It's sort of like the first day of Earth. And Adam is there, and God comes out of his clouds there and just looks right down at him and says, okay, now, Adam, there's something very important I want you to do. And you'll do it for me. Let me just tell you what it is. First of all, there's a valley right over there. I want you to cross the valley. And Adam says, wait a minute, what's a valley? And God says, all right. And so he describes it to him. He gives him a full rundown of what a valley is. Okay. And then God says, all right. So you go down into the valley, and there's a river. You cross the river, and Adam says, what's a river? And God says, all right. He realizes God has patience too. Sometimes not a lot, but he has it. So he says, all right, what's a river? Okay. And so he tells Adam, he describes to Adam fully what a river is. All right. So you go down into the valley, says God, and you cross the river. And then there's a hillside on the other side, and you go up to the top of the hills. And Adam says, whoa, what's a hill? And God now is thinking, holy mackerel, all right. But he's got to do it. So he describes what hills are to Adam. Fine. And God says, all right, now, so you get to the top of the hills. You go over the hills, you cross the hills, and there are caves there. And there's one cave in general, and Adam says, wait a minute, what's a cave? And God briefly considers just strangling him or popping his head off like a grape. But after all, this is the world he created. So he says, okay. And he describes what a cave is to Adam. He says, you go inside there, all right? Now you go down to the valley, you cross the river, you go up top on the hills there, you go into the cave, and there's a woman in the cave, Adam. And Adam says, well, wait a minute, what's a woman? And God mutters, good question. All right. And he tells him what a woman is. And he says, all right, now I want you to take that woman and reproduce. And Adam says, wait, what's that? And God, almost interrupts her. I know, what's reproduce? All right, fine. And he tells him everything about it. He tells him what reproduction is and how to do it. And, what happens and how you get a kid from that. Adam says, fine. And he starts on his way. He goes down in the valley, he crosses the river. He goes up to the top of the hills there. He crosses the top of the hills and sees the cave. He goes into the cave. And God, says, boy, that took a lot. And God, gets up from his stool there, and he's about to walk away. And sure enough, Adam is right back there, though. Adam is right back. And God says, well, that didn't take long. What happened? What's wrong? And Adam says, what's a headache? From the very beginning. Oh, anyway. I hope you liked that one, folks. We liked it here, and I hope you pass it along if you do. And that brings me to my second favorite part of the show, the Poetry Corner. Oh, that's beautiful. See, that's what a woman is, something that's beautiful and something that moves you and something that makes you happy. All right, maybe none of those are true, but it doesn't matter. I think they are. And that's a good way to say it here. Folks, this is a beautiful poem by a man who wrote great poetry. And, so what a writer this fellow was. His name was Rudyard Kipling. And among many, many other things he did, he followed the British troops, and he stayed with British troop movement all over the world in those days, in the 19th century and then the early 20th century. And he was in India with, a very large battalion of British troops. And this is where he wrote a poem called Gunga Din. And I know, technically, I have already done Gunga Din on our show here before, but I came across it this morning, and I asked Colonel Jeff when he got here, I said, can we do the whole poem? Can we really take it and wrap ourselves around it? And he said, you know what? We can do whatever we want. Because number one, it's our show, and number two, we're on Milleronia. Who's going to tell you you can't do something? And I said, boy, oh boy, are you ever a good producer? So here it is. A great poem, Gunga Din, by Rudyard Kipling. You may talk of gin and beer when you're quartered safe out here and you're sent to penny fights or Aldershot. But when it comes to slaughter, you will do your work on water and you'll lick the bloomin' boots of him that's got it. Now, in India's sunny clime, where I used to spend my time, a servant of Her Majesty the Queen, of all them black-faced crew, the finest man I knew was our regimental beastie, Gunga Din. He was, Dane, you limpin' lump of brick dust, Gunga Din. Hi, slippery, hitherao, water, get it, panny lao. You squidgy-nosed old idol, Gunga Din. The uniform he wore was nothing much before and rather less than half of that behind, for a piece of twisty rag and a goatskin water bag was all the field equipment he could find. When the sweatin' troop train lay in a sidin' through the day, where the heat would make your bloomin' eyebrows crawl, we shouted, "Harry boy!" till our throats were bricky dry. Then we whopped him, 'cause he couldn't serve us all. It was Dean, you heathen, where the mischief have you been? You put some Juldy in it, or I'll marry you this minute if you don't fill up my helmet, Gunga Din. He would dot and carry one till the longest day was done, and he didn't seem to know the use of fear. If we charged or broke or cut, you could bet your bloomin' nut he'd be waitin' 50 paces right flank rear. With his mussock on his back, he would skip with our attack and watch us till the bugles made retire. And for all his dirty-eyed, he was white, clear white inside when he went to tend the wounded under fire. It was Dane, with the bullets kicking dust spots on the green. When the cartridges ran out, you could hear the front lines shout, "Hi, ammunition mules, and Gunga Din!" I shan't forget the night when I dropped behind the fight with a bullet where my belt plate should have been. I was choking mad with thirst, and the man that spied me first was our good old grinning, grunting Gunga Din. He lifted up my head, and he plugged me where I bled, and he guv me half a pint of water, green. It was crawling and it stunk, but of all the drinks I've drunk, I'm gratefulest to one from Gunga Din. It was, Din, 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 here's a beggar with a bullet through his spleen. He's chawing up the ground, and he's kicking all around. For God's sake, get the water, Gunga Din. He carried me away to where a dooley lay, and a bullet come and drilled the beggar clean. He put me safe inside, and just before he died, I hope you liked your drink, says Gunga Din. So I'll meet him later on at the place where he is gone, where it's always double drill and no canteen. He'll be squatting on the coals, giving drink to poor damned souls, and I'll get a swig in hell from Gunga Din. Yes, Din, 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 you Lazarusian leather Gunga Din. Though I've belted you and flayed you, by the living God that made you, you're a better man than I am, Gunga Din. Isn't that lovely, folks? Ah, Kipling was great in so many things. What a beautiful story. What a great poem. And every time I've read that, I can just see this soldier on leave in a pub, maybe back home in England, or maybe he's already retired, and someone asks him there, do you have any stories that really stand out in all your years of fighting? It would be this story. Well, it would be that poem telling it. And folks, thanks, because the truth is that there's a reason I wanted to read that poem, is because it fits in so perfectly that the magic movie moment I wanted to do today. And let's give it the full introduction. That's beautiful. And the movie I wanted to talk about today was, well, Gunga Din, starring Cary Grant, Victor McLaglen, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Sam Jaffe, Abner Biberman, who I mentioned before, Joan Fontaine, whom I mentioned before, Henry Stevenson, so many others. Folks, it's a great movie. It's from 1939, and it's the story of Gunga Din and these three men, these three sergeants, Cary Grant, Victor McLaglen, and Douglas Fairbanks Jr. And Gunga Din is played by the great Sam Jaffe, someone else you've seen many, many times in many movies and TV shows. And the reason I picked Abner Biberman to give a big tip of the hat to is he played a character named Chuda, a very big part of the movie, who is the son of the head of the Tugs, the big murderous lot that is trying to, kill all the British there. And, is he great? You know Abner Biberman also from so many movies and TV shows. He played the little gangster who was sort of the partner, and would do anything that Cary Grant asked him to do in His Girl Friday, which is also such a great movie. And he was so good in that. I remember Cary Grant. They were all wonderful in that. I remember Cary Grant at one point in His Girl Friday just saying to him, well, I always liked you up to here. He points to his arm, up to here. And Biberman, as the gangster, says, well, I like you too, boss. But it's a great movie. And Abner Biberman was perfect for it. And he was great in this part. And Joan Fontaine, good Lord, what a wonderful, gorgeous actress. And she plays, Emma, who is the fiancé of Douglas Fairbanks Jr. And he's planning on leaving the service so that the two of them can get married and he can go into the tea business. And if that sounds a little like a big jump after all that fighting and all that adventure, well, it is. But you'll have to see the movie to see what happens in it. And Henry Stevenson, good Lord, what a cast. And there's a great actor who plays Rudyard Kipling himself, who is writing something in his tent. And it's something important because, again, he's following the troops around. He's with them. We use the word today, embedded, I guess. But he's with them, and he did that all the time. And we see him finishing this in a tent. And he hands the poem to the commander. And it's at the end of the movie, and a lot has happened. And I can't, and I wouldn't tell you the story. But Cary Grant is wounded, and the great Gunga Din has taught them all a lesson by saving all their lives and sacrificing his. And the commander takes the poem that was handed to him by Kipling in the movie, and there are fires set around, the troops are all at attention, and he reads it in that the last part of it. So I'll meet him later on in the place where he is gone, where it's always double drill and no canteen. He'll be squatting on the coals, giving hope to poor lost souls, and I'll get a swig in hell from Gunga Din. Yes, Din, 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 you Lazarusian leather Gunga Din. Though I've belted you and flayed you, by the living God that made you, you're a better man than I am, Gunga Din. It's a great poem and a great moment and a great movie. And that's my magic movie moment for the day, for this week, for you. Please see that movie if you haven't. Gunga Din from 1939. Starring Cary Grant, Victor McLaglen, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., Henry Stevenson, Joan Fontaine, and Sam Jaffe, and Abner Biberman. And it brings so much together. I hope you love it too. You know what? I can't imagine serving like that. I can imagine it, but I maybe you feel the same way of, good Lord, in those days, from the late 19th century through the earliest 20th century, to be around the world and protecting outposts and to, building new ones. And, I travel, obviously. I was, but it's amazing how you feel. I was just working in Tucson, Arizona, and Riverside, California, with Jerry Seinfeld. And he's always, as I love telling the crowd, he's, because it's true. Well, we've been friends since the day we met, and he often, just calls a friend up for, certain jobs and says, hey, why don't you come out with me? We'll go to Tucson. We'll go to Riverside. And that's a great call. You know what? I'll be there. And the thing about Tucson is that I don't understand how people feel about a cactus, because it's a beautiful country. I could call home to my wife, hey, how's the country there in Tucson? Is it nice? Yeah, well, except for the cactus or the cacti. Because those, to me, I hate them. I mean, how's the country there? Pretty? No, it's too many cacti. And they have, hillsides, folks, right outside the hotel. It's a nice hotel, too. And, right outside there, it's hills and grass and shrubs and all sorts of things, and 130 cacti. I mean, right in the hills there, they have two kinds there. Maybe they have more. I'm sure they do. But the ones I saw were the ones that, number one, go straight up. They had about 100 of these that go straight up like 40 feet each and about a foot thick. And they just go from the ground straight up. And as you know, from every cartoon you've ever seen, they have needles. And maybe it's the cartoons I saw as a kid, and then if you walk too close, suddenly they'll just dive on you. They'll wrap themselves around you, and good luck now, potato head. But then, of course, the other more popularly known one that you and I know, and Colonel Jeff and everybody knows, are the, cartoon cactus, where it has the centerpiece that goes up, about 8 feet, 10 feet or so, and then it has the two arms that go out. Yeah, that's right. In the cartoons, they'd wrap those two arms around you. Yeah, by the way, thanks, Warner Brothers. But because I love all of that stuff. But boy, folks, you know what? I don't understand that. And in Tucson, they also have, and I don't quite get, and the people were terrific, and they love their city and their homes, but they don't love the Javelina pigs. Now, a friend of mine had pointed these out to me because they're all over. You can't get rid of them. They're all over in packs, all around hotels and all over golf courses. I don't mean in the desert. They're just there. And their Javelina pigs are bigger than regular pigs, but smaller than boars. I don't know why that makes me feel better or worse, but I don't get it. Javelina, by the way, Javelina means if you're standing still for more than 3 seconds, I'll kill you. And they're very dangerous. In the hotels, everyone tells you, don't go near the Javelina pigs. Because why would you anyway? But people will do stupid things like that. And they tell you, don't do it. Don't go near them because they want you to. Remember, there's like a giant pack of them wherever you go. And suddenly, you're not coming after them. They're coming after you. And they're not kidding around. They'll kill you. And it's illegal, by the way. Laws are sometimes funny. It's illegal to kill or hunt them. I don't know why. I would think it would be mandatory to kill or hunt them. That, you just have to, that the hotel gives you crossbows or something that's, so there's some chance. So the thing has it so you just fire one of those things at them. But boy, I'll tell you what, I didn't want to see them. It's one of those hotels. Did you get out? Did you walk around? No, because of the Javelina pigs. And just the road from the airport, by the way, to the hilltops where this nice hotel was, you could only go, they were nice roads too, but you could only go 30 or 35 miles an hour. The speed limit is 35 miles an hour. And these are roads where it looks like you could go 65, but you can't. That's against the law. The law is you can only go up to 35 miles an hour. So I asked the driver, I don't know, but in the area there, I thought, are there beeves around here? Meaning cattle. Is this cattle country? So they don't want the cattle just suddenly standing there if you come roaring by at 65. And he said, no, is coyotes. Oh, coyotes. So that you could plow into a bunch of them. Well, they'd take that well, wouldn't they? No, they wouldn't. They make the Javelina pigs look like tea time. But okay, all right. And coyotes too, just another one of those places where, and I loved it there. Meaning again, I'm not just saying this. The people were terrific, great audiences, and beautiful buildings, and the theater there and everything. There's some very old buildings and some new ones. Terrific place. But why settle there? It's one of those places in our country of, if you're, in a wagon train and you're going further and further west, and you get to a place with coyotes, Javelina pigs, always over 100, really hot. What are you doing? Why do you think this is it? Honey, we're home. Well, Here on Milleronia, folks, the plain fact is we have no cactus problem, number one, because I have made it legal and required to kill any cactus on your property. In fact, I haven't told you this yet, but we have a volcano number 3 just for that. I've told you about the 2 volcanoes. That's for people who do things wrong, and they're sure not happy when they're walked up to the top there and tossed in like a bag of garbage. But we have a volcano number 3. We have a whole volcano just for the disposal of cacti. That's right. So you don't want to be one of the people, not on Milleronia, who say, oh, what a cute little thing. Let's plant that in the backyard. I wouldn't if I were you. Because if we discover it, and we discover everything, by the way, and when we discover that you have a cactus, big ones, little ones, arms, no arms, straight up, straight down, whatever it is, we immediately, we send you the message, and that message comes at the end of a hot, closed fist. And the message is, we're coming by in an hour with our crane and with some helicopters, and they have leather straps and also all sorts of things and hooks and things to get the cactus. You got to dig it up and not to grow back again, too. And we pick it up and we take it right by helicopter right to volcano number 3. And Ollie Dungmeister III is there. It's a short ceremony for this one. The helicopter flies over number 3 and dumps it right in to the fire. And Ollie just says, good. And that's the whole ceremony. So we have a whole volcano just for the disposal of cacti. That's the way we all, and I, feel about them. I don't understand certain things that happened with the earth. We had an earthquake back on the mainland the other night. You may have read about the one in Mexico. It was huge. It was just, good Lord, so many people lost in it and killed. And folks, I'll tell you, it's another thing. Like, I remember my wife and I, and we're in bed. It was about 11 o'clock at night, back on the mainland. And Colonel Jeff felt it too, but it was 3.6 on the Richter scale, nearby, about 10 miles away from right where our house is on the mainland. And I'm telling you, though, it makes you think. The thing is, about 3 seconds long it took, and it just shook and shook and shook. And so for earthquakes, it reminds you, folks. My wife and I suddenly grabbed her hand, and she, because it reminds you, and then it went away. It reminds you how big those things are. And that one was only 3.6. And boy, oh boy, we've had, the big ones, the big ones, and they're far worse. But you know what? Even the little one makes you sit there. We looked at each other and went, holy mackerel. It reminds you of how much you don't want those around. And so you know what? Believe me, if I ran our country the way I run Milleronia, we'd find a way out of that. I promise you that. And you know what I know. Homer is Homer, and Pluto is a planet. So remember, folks, as always, if you walked out of bed today and had a job to go to and a home to come back to and someone there who cares about you, folks, the game's over and you've won. And that's still the only basic big truth I know. Be well. Stay away from the Javelina pigs, and we'll see you next time.